Silver and the league cite potential losses of $500 million to $1 billion if they were to miss the pre-Christmas Day start. Stephen A., I'll start with you on this. Do you think Adam Silver has a point about this upcoming season and the start date?
You're damn right he has a point. And the players have to handle it from that perspective. They've got to make a decision. Do you want to stay home for the Christmas holidays and lose anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion? I'm told the number's around $600 to $650 million that the players would lose and ultimately risk the NBA exercising its right to reopen collective bargaining talks, which would basically eradicate the financial structure that you have in place. Or would you like to come to work 2 weeks earlier? Period. Now think about that for a second here. You're willing to jeopardize all of that because you don't want to show up to work 2 weeks earlier? And this notion that, okay, well, you know, we just finished, because according to reports, Executive Director Michelle Roberts has echoed this stance on the part of the players. Well, you know what? The season just ended in October. Well, technically that's right. Theoretically, you have a point there for about 3 to 4, for about 4 teams or 2 teams. But for the rest of the league, let's put it in its proper perspective. You had 4.5 months off because of the pandemic. After that, of the 30 teams in the league, 22 came back. The other stayed home. 22 teams came back. Then 6 of those teams were gone because they didn't make the postseason. So now you've got 16 teams, okay? And of those 16 teams, all right, then you played an additional month. So essentially, for the better month to 6 weeks. So basically, over the last 6 to 7 months or so, you've had off about 5 to 6 months. What's the problem? What's the problem? It makes no sense whatsoever. I understand it's not ideal. Me personally, I would prefer that the season start in the new year because obviously the NFL playoffs are going on, Christmas and all of that stuff, the holidays. And I can certainly understand that after the year that everybody has had, because it's been a trying year for everyone, you want to enjoy the holiday season to the best of your ability. And certainly you can't do that if you're in training camp from December 1st and the season starts 3 days before Christmas, which means some of the teams are going to be away from their families on Christmas Day and all of this other stuff. I understand that. But in the end, what it comes down to is I don't want to hear about time needed off. You had enough time off. And I certainly don't want to hear about, this willingness to start later, but you don't want to take into account the hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars that you're going to lose. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You got to suck it up because we're all dealing with very trying circumstances. The pandemic is what it is. It has ravaged the lives of tens of millions of people in this nation alone. Over 40 million people being unemployed, losing their jobs and what have you, being furloughed. We get all of that. But in the end, you're an NBA player. You understand what comes with this. This is a different situation. Now, if it was LeBron James, well, all that's thrusted upon his shoulders, he might be the lone individual that if he said, I needed a couple of extra weeks or I needed that extra month off, I think everybody could understand that. That's about it. There's nobody else that has an excuse whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, you get your behind back on the court and you be ready to ball, or you accept with no noise, you accept the fact that you're going to lose in excess of $600 million.
To quote Kendrick Perkins' Twitter, Stephen A., and the man has a way with words when he quote tweeted something about how the players think that's too early a start, December 22nd. He said, man, ain't nobody trying to hear that. Check ball, carry on. He's right. No one's trying to hear that except for LeBron. You and I agree about this. LeBron could say, guys, give me how much, give me a month. I played in yet another final. I get it. I'm 100 years old. I get it. Everyone else, what do you think Adam Silver's agenda is here? Do you think he's a guy who the only thing he ever cares about is the bottom line, which is a commissioner's job, more or less? Sure, he cares about the bottom line, of course, but does he have some evil agenda to try to just exploit NBA players? This is the guy who I will remind people, and I was anticipating, here it comes, Donald Sterling slap on the wrist, some fine or something, and business as usual. He said, you're out. You're out of here. This is a guy who, when Daryl Morey was critical of China, and the NBA has enormous business in China. Did he take an extra beat longer than I would have liked? Yes, he did. I think he was seeing which way the wind was blowing in terms of various things, including popular opinion and stuff like that. Nevertheless, Adam Silver came out relatively quickly and said, the NBA is standing up for free speech. It costs them business in China. China exerts enormous financial pressure to keep people quiet about their oppressive policies as it relates to speech and other freedom. And the NBA, under Adam Silver's stewardship, said, nope, we're going to stand up for free speech. That's amazing that he did that. What kind of a partner have the NBA players had in the NBA, and vice versa? Give the players credit for being good partners to the league, because together they figured out a way to get all the local TV money, hitting the 72-game benchmark this past season, to have a complete playoffs without a single COVID case. The playoffs were great, by the way. They were thrilling. And to crown a champion. So when Adam Silver comes out, it's just like what I said with the Cowboys, Stephen A. Do they get a pass? Wait a minute. How much equity have you built up? What have you been about? When Adam Silver comes out and says, guys, this is what it is. There's TV money on the line. I think we got to start here. This is not a guy twirling his mustache trying to do you dirty. This is a guy who's just telling you the reality. If the NBA wants the economy to keep growing, or at least not shrink by almost $500 million or more dollars, you got to start before Christmas.
There's a couple of things. Number one, it's not just Adam Silver. It's the networks. 20% viewership is down was down in the summer. You've got a league that does, and networks that doesn't want the NBA colliding with the Olympics or going into an NFL season because it drastically affects their ratings and compromises their bottom line. Part of the reason, from a collective bargaining standpoint, that you're in a position to offer the players the money that they're getting offered. They got 50% basketball-related income, a 50-50 split, but we know every category doesn't fall under the guise of basketball-related income. We know that the owners are getting some extra dollars on the side. We get all of that. But the flip side to it is this. If you know that ratings are compromised and it's going to cost the networks money, and that network money is what facilitates owners negotiating collective bargaining deals with you that enables you to get your money, then ultimately you've got that to deal with. And keep in mind, Max, that I brought up the force majeure clause, which allows the NBA to completely just kill the collective bargaining agreement they presently have in place because of how the pandemic has ravaged the business. So if you are a player from a business perspective, because we know they pride themselves on being businessmen, it's important and imperative to understand that the NBA has that hovering over you. They can reopen collective bargaining talks. They can sit up there and say, look, we lost this money. We want this back from you. Let's renegotiate our collective bargaining agreement. And all of that is potentially on the table. And the reason why you're willing to jeopardize all of that coming to the forefront is because you don't want to show up 2 weeks earlier and 3 days before Christmas. That's just not intelligent.
Stephen A.
That's just not intelligent.
Stephen A. How would David Stern have handled this? A little differently, right? But there was a lot of faith in him because he kept growing the league and growing the business. Adam Silver took over for one of the most successful commissioners who ever lived in any sport, and he's done an outstanding job. And sometimes he has put